What up guys, Arel here with Yuga Tech, and as you may know by now, the Huawei Y9 Prime 2019 has been the talk of the town because of its true bezel-less design, together with its trendy pop-up selfie camera and its affordable price. But if you are torn between the Y9 Prime 2019 and its mid-range sibling, the Huawei P30 Lite, then continue watching. This is our comparison review between the Huawei Y9 Prime 2019 and the Huawei P30 Lite. Starting off with design. Our unit of Y9 Prime 2019 is in emerald green color, which is pretty refreshing to see because of its two-tone design. The back is made out of plastic, but it feels glass-like, which is a plus. Meanwhile, the P30 Lite unit that we have has a glossy gradient design in a pickup blue color. It is kind of typical style already for the P series launched this year, but still, it looks pretty good, especially with its 3D curved glass back. More on the back, both of these devices sport a triple rear camera setup and a rear-mounted fingerprint scanner. Up front, the Huawei Y9 Prime 2019 achieves a true all-screen display by utilizing a pop-up selfie camera, whereas the P30 Lite, you get that small notch for its selfie camera. Moving to buttons and ports, both of these devices' power and volume buttons can be found on the right. Up top, we get the Huawei Y9 Prime 2019's main points, the 16-megapixel pop-up front-facing camera. Beside the pop-up mechanism, the hybrid dual SIM card tray and noise-cancelling microphone. And for the P30 Lite, there is a hybrid dual SIM card tray also, and its secondary microphone. At the bottom of these devices, you can find a noise-cancelling microphone for regular calls, and single downward-firing speakers, and a USB Type-C port for charging and data transfers. Now, design is really subjective, and we all have our own taste, but if you ask me, I'm gonna give it to the Y9 Prime 2019. Personally, its design just feels more refined and it's way more classy. Moving on to display. The Huawei Y9 Prime 2019 gets a 6.59-inch LTPS display with a resolution of 2340 by 1080. Its notchless screen with thin bezels makes the phone look really attractive and dynamic. While the P30 Lite, on the other hand, gets a 6.15-inch IPS display with a resolution of 2312 by 1080. Its bezels are more apparent and slightly thicker, particularly around the chin. You also get this minimal dewdrop notch to house its 32-megapixel selfie camera, call speaker, and LED notification light. In terms of display protection, you don't get any of that on both of these devices, so I do recommend you slap a screen protector on it for safety. When it comes to media consumption, you do get an almost full screen experience as there are no thick bezels nor a notch to obstruct the view for Y9 Prime 2019. The viewing angles are great as well, but the contrast could be improved, as well as the vibrancy of the colors. The P30 Lite details are decent, contrast is good which gives you more life, and it's more pleasing to the eyes with its bright colors and deep blacks. About the audio quality, it's average. However, they're also quite disappointing. The volume needs to be improved as it doesn't get loud enough for my taste. I recommend you to use some headphones or earphones for clearer and louder audio. So for display and media consumption, it's going to be the Huawei Y9 Prime 2019 for its all-screen display, larger screen, and higher display resolution. Checking out performance now. Both of these devices, the Y9 Prime 2019 and the Huawei P30 Lite, are equipped with Kirin 710 processor and a Mali G51 GPU. The Huawei Y9 Prime 2019 comes with 4GB of RAM with 128GB of internal storage, while the P30 Lite comes with 6GB of RAM with 128GB of internal storage. It's also worth mentioning that you do get expandable storage for up to 512GB for both. I didn't find much of a difference when it comes to performing day-to-day tasks, but when it comes to gaming, both of these devices can handle heavy games, though still expect a few frame drops when using high graphic settings. Checking out the benchmark scores, the Huawei Y9 Prime 2019 is superior to the P30 in raw performance. There is a noticeable gap in the numbers. As for software, you get an Android 9 Pie out of the box skin with EMUI 9 for both of these devices. To be honest, none of these skins are my personal favorite, especially EMUI's icon and interface. Well, it's not for everyone basically, but if you are a fan of it, then sure. Keeping the Y9 Prime 2019 running is a 4000 mAh battery, and the P30 Lite utilizes a smaller 3340 mAh battery. Both of these devices doesn't support any form of fast charging. In our standard video loop test, which entails the phone being at 50% brightness, 50% volume, airplane mode turned on, and with headphones plugged in, the Huawei Y9 Prime 2019 yielded 18 hours and 53 minutes, while the P30 Lite got us 13 hours and 7 minutes. So for raw performance, I'm giving it to the Y9 Prime 2019 for its better battery performance and overall advantage in the numbers. When it comes to security, there is no optical facial recognition for the Y9 Prime 2019 unlike the P30 Lite. You get a rear-mounted fingerprint scanner for both of these devices. Well, in terms of unlocking speed, for the fingerprint scanner, scanner, they're both the same, and they're both relatively fast and accurate. Checking out the cameras real quick, at the back, the Y9 Prime 2019 gets a triple camera setup composed of a 16-megapixel main shooter with an aperture of 1.8, an 8-megapixel ultra-wide lens, and a 2-megapixel sensor for depth information which has an aperture of 2.4. The P30 Lite, on the other hand, has a triple camera setup consisting of 24-megapixel main shooter with an aperture of 1.8, an 8-megapixel ultra-wide one with an aperture of 2.4, and a 2-megapixel sensor for depth information which has an aperture of 2.4 also. On the front-facing side of things, you get a 16-megapixel pop-up selfie camera for the Y9 Prime 2019 and a 32-megapixel one on the P30 Lite. Taking a look at these sample photos, in this first shot we can quickly notice the difference in how these devices handle post-processing. The Y9 Prime 2019 seems to have a stronger contrast and stronger sharpening too. In these next shots, we can now see the difference in details. The Y9 Prime 2019 captures the finer details like the toy car's interior, as well as the texture of the platform on which the car stands. At this next shot, the two images look similar at first glance, but one may appreciate the Y9 Prime's ability to bring out the colors and minimize the shadows in this scene. Outdoor shots under cloudy environment appears to be of no problem for both of these phones. The Y9 Prime 2019 tends to capture more light in this picture of Ali, although it tends to look overexposed on some details if you look closely at her left hand. For portrait mode, the P30 Lite wins here, with its better separation of the subject from the background. Night mode shots are not necessarily the strength of both of these cameras, but the Y9 Prime 2019 seems to be able to capture the details of the cars on the road towards the horizon, compared to the P30 Lite, where the street light and the car's backlights manage to blur out the scene. Lastly, we have the selfie here of AJ. The P30 Lite handles the shot better as the colors look more natural compared to the Y9 Prime's tendency to overexpose the subject. Okay, so for the cameras, it's kind of a mixed bag here, since the Y9 Prime's rear camera seems to be able to capture the details better than the P30 Lite, although the former tends to overexpose in some scenarios, which you might like better depending on your taste. The pixel count on P30 Lite's front-facing camera at 32 megapixel definitely give it an edge over the Y9 Prime, which is a 16-megapixel shooter. Now, to conclude this comparison, we gotta talk about price. The Y9 Prime 2019 is priced at $12,990 for the 4GB of RAM plus 128GB of internal storage. Meanwhile, the P30 Lite gets a price tag of $16,990 for the 6GB of RAM plus 128GB of internal storage. Now, with that in mind, I think it's clear who the winner is here. Of course, without a doubt, it's the Huawei Y9 Prime 2019. For the more affordable price you'll pay, you'll get a nice vivid display, better performance, and better battery life. The design is a plus too. Nonetheless, the P30 Lite is not bad at all too. You can still expect a nice performance and better front-facing camera quality. Also, if you want to get the vibe of Huawei's P-series flagship, then go for this one. So, what do you guys think of this smartphone comparison? Let us know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content, hit that bell icon to get notified for our future uploads, and be sure to visit yugatech.com for the latest tech news and reviews. Again, this has been Arel, and I'll see you in the next one.